Hey guys, welcome to this video. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I'm obsessed with filling this IntelliGel performance case with modules so that I can do 1 hour of live modular techno. And lately I've been going down a bit of a rabbit hole where I've used the Plinky to make more melodic techno. And while it sounds nice, in my opinion it was a bit repetitive and I didn't really enjoy playing it that much anymore. And so I've been thinking a lot about what is missing from the way I've been doing techno the last few months. And so I listened to a lot of other artists and I realized one thing, which I'm trying to visualize here. For me, what I realized is the techno I like isn't just about which elements you have. It's a lot about how often do these elements appear. And so I think I made some mistakes on that front. On this graph, I'm trying to show, from left to right, how often does a thing happen? And then from the bottom to the top is like the different frequencies, low, mediums, and highs. And so this part is fairly clear. You have your kick, which happens a bit, and the clap, which is less frequent, ride, which are more frequent, and hi-hats, which are very frequent, and then usually a bass line and some rumble in the low frequencies to fill in the gaps between the kick. And so one thing I feel like I've done wrong is that I've used a lot of lead voices in parallel. It all happened a lot, which I think it's because, this is a synthesizer, so you have a lot of VCOs, a lot of filters, and it's very tempting to make a lot of lead voices. But somehow this makes it hard to dance to, in my opinion. And so what I'm going for with this case is a single lead voice, which might happen a lot through some arpeggiator, and then some noises and accents, which do not happen a lot. And so on a high level, compared to my previous sets, I now have just the localic again as a lead voice, the SY as an additional thing that makes infrequent accents and noises. And another big change I've done is I added back the Kickain to support the DFAM. All right, so let's start. In this case, the DFAM is the main clock, so I'll start by wiring out the trigger here into the Neo Trinity and into the Steppy. And now we have to advance to the last step, and if we press play now, these two are in sync. And so we can start by wiring up the kick. Here, first channel into the trigger, and then the output into the mixer. And from the mixer we go into the main output. And we hear a kick. And the second thing I will wire through is the DFAM as a bassline and rumble. And so the two really work well together. Nice. Another thing that I do on the DFAM is I will modulate the noise level. So, we have here the noise. And I find it's really nice and adds a layer of percussion to vary this. And for this I'm using the Allen, which is a Turing machine. So I'm plugging in the noise level here and driving it with the clock. And so now we can change the randomness here and we get different levels of noise. And you'll notice it's kind of fun to put this on 5 steps. If we put it on 8, it's more repetitive. With 5, it's a polyrhythm. Next up, let's wire in the Mimeophone, which is the one and the only effect in this case. And right on, we will also clock this guy. And this kind of adds another layer of percussion. Which I really like. The next element will be the hi-hats, and here I have a nice little trick. So what I will do is I will grab the clock one more time, and the clock will trigger the hi-hats. So this means we will get a hi-hat trigger on every note. So let's listen to this. So now we have one on every clock, which is a bit annoying. But now what we can do is we can wire in an accent. So let's use the second channel here. Classic techno beat. And the reason why I plug this into the switch here from DFAM is I want to use this switch to select between open and closed hats, which I found is really nice for a live performance. So I'll wire in the top gate into the open, the bottom gate into the closed. And now if we switch between the two. that's not the only 909 drums that we have. We also want to add a ride and a clap. And for this, I will use the ramper here. So the ride is on the first channel of this sample pack. And now we have to mix this in with the hi-hats. So for this, I have the duat here. So we will mix the ramper and the hi-hats into this channel and put it here. So now we have rise as well. Can make some nice variations. And also a clap, which I believe is on the last channel. And actually this, I think, to make it a bit louder. See, it becomes very playable very quickly by bringing in and taking out different drums. All right, so let's wire up the main voice here, the main lead. I'll be using the Euclidean circles to drive it, so let's steal the clock signal one more time. And let's turn it off and on to sync the two. Let's plug it in to the mixer. From the mixer, we will go into the first input here of the BXX2. Then we'll go into the kick to sidechain it. And then we will go into the mixer. And you will hear a lovely drone. And the sidechain. Okay, so let's wire in a trigger from the first page here. And we'll use this to open up the filter a little bit. Very plucky, we can add a lot of resonance to get this more like acid style sound. Okay, but now we want a pitch sequencer also on this. Now in the past I've done some cases where I had no pitch sequencing whatsoever, and it becomes a lot more percussive in the result. And it's nice. You can make 90-minute set. I will link one down below the like button. But yeah, lately I found like a little bit of pitch is nice. And so I want to take this opportunity to quickly compare these two sequencers, because this guy is unquantized and this guy is quantized. And I will wire this in quickly and show you a bit how this two differs. The way I will set this up is I will use a channel of the Euclidean as a clock source, which means that these will not advance on every clock, which in my experience sounds very nice. Okay, so I tried to wire these in a similar fashion now, and this switch will control whether we hear the Metropolix or the O control. So let's hear it in the context. thanks for bearing with me on this one. So yeah, you can see it sounds fairly different. So if you quantize it, it becomes more nice, kind of more friendly. And this one, in my opinion, it sounds a bit more techno. And so the plan here is that I will get the 8 Seek Mini from Noisy Fruit Lab, and I will get a quantizer, but I will wire it so that I can select whether I quantize or don't quantize. And then different parts in the set, they will either be more like this, more melodic, you know, for a break, maybe a little arpeggiator, or more like this. Anyways, for now, let's wire it so that we just have this guy. The next friend here will be the SY05, and it will also go into this mixer so we can distort it a bit, because it can be a bit quiet. And then the other thing that I'll wire out is here a touch control into this part of the ramp room. And so on this channel I have a few freaky sounds, and the idea will be that I'll get the FSR here where I can touch this. For now we can touch this to get a trigger, and there are like a bunch of them here. And we can mix it up during the set. To make little breaks. I think I'll have to practice this a bit, but I played with it a bit last night and I kind of like this a lot. Cool. All right, so the next thing that we'll wire up is the disting here. So actually the mix out will go into the disting, and then from the disting into the out. And the disting is set to the DJ filter, and we can put this into A here. And now if we are in the A channel, we have a lovely DJ filter. The last thing I want to call out is that the DFAM obviously has 2 voices, so we are using it here as a rumbly bass line. But there's a second voice which can add a very nice techno touch. Alright, let's do a quick jam. All right, thanks a lot for listening, and see you next time.